And the final wage that sin is paid is probably the greatest consequence of all. And I wonder if we've even spent any time thinking about it. I know I didn't in my early years. It was a brand new concept to me. And I'll describe it this way. The sixth consequence that sin is paid is that the one person who never, ever should have struggled, suffered as a result of sin, is the one who has suffered the most. And that's what I call the broken heart of God. The broken heart of God is the biggest wage that sin has paid. The devil and his angels have destroyed a portion of the heavens. Human beings have wrecked the earth. And the one being who never deserved that, who did everything to ensure their good, their blessing, their this or that, the one being who was never responsible for any of it, has suffered the most. And here's the evidence. Let's begin in Genesis 6, 5 and 6, when it all began on earth. The Lord saw that the wickedness of the human race had become on the earth, how bad it had become on the earth, and that every inclination of the thoughts of the human heart was only evil all the time. And the Lord regretted that he had made human beings on the earth, and he was deeply grieved in his heart. Deeply grieved in his heart. Remember what I told you about human mind and feelings. Feelings are the ability to experience in a conscious way what the mind is occupied with. The greater the mind understands, the greater the feelings. You know that in terms of adults and children. Children oftentimes when they see a bad thing, they don't care as deeply about it because they have less perspective. You have more years of perspective, you know the person better. The more you know, the more you can suffer. Now think of an infinite God with infinite understanding about the way it should have been and how it would have been. And he's looking on that with infinite understanding so he can experience infinite grief. Infinite grief. We can't even begin to understand what that means. In Ezekiel chapter 6, verse 9, we get another little reflection of the broken heart of God. Then those of you who escape will remember me, this is God talking through the prophet, among the nations to which they will be carried captive, how I have been hurt. This is God talking. How I have been hurt by their adulterous hearts, which turned away from me, and by their eyes which played the harlot after their idols. And they will loathe themselves in their own sight, is what we should do, for our evils which they've committed and for all their abomination. God says he's hurt. You know, I think we have somewhat of a Greek view of God where he doesn't have feelings. And he's just kind of this big, unimaginable thing up there somewhere that, is so whatever on one side that we've totally minimized a huge message of the Bible. You know where we really find the writings on the broken heart of God in the Bible? It's the prophets. And you know what's sad about this? That's one part of the Bible most people don't read. They don't like it. Too heavy, too this, too that. But it's the heart of the prophets that actually shows the broken heart of God in incredible ways. Here's Hosea, for example. I remember Hosea actually was asked by God to marry an unfaithful woman so he could experience the pain of how God felt over the unfaithfulness of Israel. So it was kind of an object lesson of, I want you to feel what I feel, So here's Hosea 11, 8 and 9. Where through the prophet God says, so my people are bent on turning from me. That must be horrific to God as he looks down on 7 billion people on the planet. Though they call them to the one on high, none at all exalts him. And God says, how can I give you up, O Ephraim? How can I surrender you? Here's God kind of pleading in himself is, I don't want to judge, but how can I do this? How can I make you like Admah? How can I treat you like Zebulun? These were cities that were destroyed. God says, my heart is turned over within me. All my compassions are kindled. So we're talking about, again, infinite heart, infinite compassion. He says, I will not execute my fierce anger. I will not destroy Ephraim again, for I am God, not man. It's got God dialoguing with himself, saying, I love you, I don't want to do this. My heart is stirred, but what do I do? I'm just. God has feelings, even though totally perfect and totally just. He says, I'm God, not a man, the Holy One in your midst. I will not come in wrath in this context. Probably the prophet who shared God's heart more than any in Scripture is the prophet Jeremiah, which is why he's known as the weeping prophet. And here's what he says in just feeling the heart of God, obviously. He says, quote, my sorrow is beyond healing. This is Jeremiah 8, verse 18 through Jeremiah 9, verse 3. My sorrow is beyond healing. My heart is faint within me. Behold, listen, the cry of my daughter, of my people from a distant land. Is the Lord not in Zion? Is her king not within her? Why have they provoked me with their graven images and with their foreign idols? Harvest is past. Summer is ended, and we are not saved. For the brokenness of the daughter of my people, I am broken. God says, through the prophet, I mourn. Dismay has taken hold of me. Is there no balm in Gilead? In other words, is there a place where I can get some medicine, because I'm hurting so much? Is there no physician there? Why then is not the health of the daughter of my people been restored? This is one of the great revelations of the Bible. In fact, we don't remember the fact a whole book was written about the broken heart of God. But it has a funky, old-fashioned name, so we don't think of it that way. It's the book of Lamentations. And Lamentations, it should be called really the book of tears. That's what it is. It's the book of crying over the sin of a people, emanating from the heart of God. And of course, then the epitome expression of this is God finally saying to himself, they haven't listened to this, they haven't listened to this, they haven't listened to this, I'm going to come to the earth. And so the Son, a part of the Godhead, he comes and lives among us. And we have this entire road of grief to the cross. That's the essence of our salvation. It's a broken-hearted God coming from heaven and saying, well, it doesn't seem like they're going to do anything, so maybe I'll convince them in person, and I'll do that which can save them. The Bible prophetically in Isaiah 53 calls Jesus a man of sorrows, acquainted with grief. He was not happy-go-lucky. I'm sure he had some joyous moments. You see a few of them in Scripture, but you see more the burden of the broken heart of God because he came to answer that, to provide a way of salvation. In fact, here's Luke 19, verse 41. As we know, Jesus got near the end. It says, when he approached Jerusalem, he saw the city, and what did he do? He wept over it. That's the heart of God, the broken heart of God. Kind of reminds me of Psalm 119, 136. My eyes shed streams of water because they do not keep your law. If that was said by a human being, now imagine where that came from. Again, the heart of God looking down and shedding streams of water. We're going to talk in our next session about the glory and the wonder of the cross. So I'm not going to go into it an awful lot in this session. But we've got to understand that at the essence of the cross is a broken-hearted God basically doing this: unleashing all the effects of sin on himself to convince anybody with any kind of an understanding that they are loved and there is hope. And it comes totally out of a broken heart. In fact, I think we have a totally wrong picture of the cross. Sometimes we picture the cross as if Jesus hanging there dying, and we say to ourselves, and God had to turn away. Where do we get that from? We say that, well, God can't look on sin. What? He looks on sin every day. He sees every single sin in every single heart. If he turned away, it was because his eyes were gushing. I love some of the movies where it rains. Well, that's what was happening. The Father and the Spirit, they're looking down on Jesus and they're weeping. The whole brunt of sin is coming down on him. And that's for a reason that we're going to talk about. To finish this up, we've got to get a bigger picture of what sin has done to the universe. It has so hurt everything. God's going to create a new earth. He's going to create a new heaven. He changed his whole arrangement in the Godhead by becoming human and dying. He's going to have scars forever. There's all kinds of things that have happened, of which the worst is the effects on God himself. And I say this: what an incredible bunch of murderers we have been to a wonderful, wonderful God. And yet here's the deal. Some of us, or some, think, well, gee, how much sin can I get away with and still get into heaven? If we have that kind of an attitude, when faced with the reality of what's really going on and who's really suffered, I say with everything within me and about my own life, anybody who has that kind of attitude deserves to go to hell. And we know nothing about suffering and justice from God's point of view. So let's understand the wage that sin has paid. Let's not, in this time period we live in, minimize it, play it down, kind of walk away from it, or pretend that God is not just. No, God is incredibly just. And his justice shows itself in weeping, broken love. And that's what we're going to talk about in our next session, because it's all about him coming into this world we have utterly destroyed and we deserve nothing. And he's found a way for there to be a hope of salvation.